Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of ReTFOS, where I take old stories and update them to modern audio standards. If you like this sort of content, I would be truly honored if you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Now, let's more importantly head over to the story. The List, written by RegalLegalEagle. I looked at the grocery list carefully, examining each item as though it would be involved in the cure for a rare disease, or possibly save my life in time. Because when you have to travel this far to get to the grocery store, you make sure you know everything you need to get. There was a time when a person could simply walk around the corner to buy groceries. Inconceivable by today's standards. So when you went shopping, you went in prepared. Satisfied with the list, I began to spin up the engines on the old scrap heap. The first 2 times they began to spin before whining and dying out as the electromagnetic failed and to kick in. I know I needed to replace them, but like everything else in my station, the engines were mostly held together with duct tape and crazy glue, so making sure I had enough to eat came first. Yes, getting enough to eat. We could jump across systems in minutes or hours depending on how fast our ride was. We could extend our lives double or even triple what was normal. We could manipulate the very building blocks of the universe, but we still had to eat. This was a concept not lost to the corporate types, and so, as far as we'd come, we were still slaves to the age-old invention, the supermarket. The scrap heap had made it up to the cruising speed, and I was watching the traffic as we narrowed in on the same destination. I could see a band of pirates trying to latch onto a free-launch merchant cell, but they were fighting back from the looks of things. Knowing it was time to repair, I activated defense mode. The scrap heap might not look like much, but that was mostly by design. The armor plating slid into position and sealed up the ship as the anti-boarding current ran through the exterior coils. Offensive weapons weren't allowed this close normally, but I wasn't taking any chances as I got close. I could see it in the sensors, but not quite. There it was. Planet Kroger. Technically, it was just a planetoid, but still, it was a feat of human engineering that was made to seem less impressive by having one in every decently populated system. But no mistake, every single one was a testament to the human ability to consume. 8 billion chickens. Do you know how much space 8 billion chickens take up? I don't. But someone in that planetoid does. They've got at least that many in the depths of the rock somewhere, pecking out a living, hatching, growing, laying eggs, dying, and becoming one of their fresh roasted rotisserie chickens, all without ever leaving the core. Hell of a life. But for the 75 cents per dozen eggs and a full chicken for $4, I was willing to set aside my considerations for the well-being of the dumb birds. There were rumors that farm fish were raised in the Rysick sewer water treatment system inside the store, but you give me $5 a pound of ahai tuna and tell me that you raised it in piss and I'll still buy it. The oceans were just fish piss anyway. The hollowed-out core of the planet was a maze of hydro farms, mini pastures, and MC Escher orchards marked by tens of thousands of employees who had life similar to cattle and poultry they grew. Of course, they were free to leave at any time, and from what I heard, it wasn't a bad company to work for, but it still seemed crazy to me. I loved open space and the freedom it entailed. Then again, my ship was called the Scrap Heap and looked the part, and few times I'd been woken up in the middle of the night, nearly asphyxiated as the oxygen scrubber broke. So, each to their own. As I got in closer to the station, I realized I had a bit of a tail. A hunter? Nah, the ship was too new, too nice. When they began to try and press forward to sweep around me, I realized what they wanted. That parking place up ahead, right next to the airlock. Not a fucking chance. I knew I wouldn't be able to outrun them, but I could slow them down. I spun my ship their way as I hit my left starboard chaff, spewing out bits of junk I'd strapped in place, and hopefully nothing I actually needed. The maneuver worked though, and they peeled off to avoid the debris as I jammed the inertia brakes and swung into the bay. Before the clamps had even sealed to the hull, I was out of the airlock with a burst, letting the explosive decom shoot me across the open space to the main store airlock entrance. I wasn't one of the big hauler types that needed a caravan to haul away their groceries. I was as self-sufficient as I could be, but I needed some essentials I couldn't get for myself. especially since my goat died. Though she had provided several nice meals after that, especially the crockpot recipes I found. She did not go to waste. I waited in the quiet of vacuum for the doors to rumble shut behind me before the air hissed in and I was in a regular atmosphere. I let my suit start using the recycled air of the station rather than my own, but otherwise left everything on. As the doors opened, I walked forward under the watchful eye of the security guns as Kelly, the virtual Kroger greeter, popped up. "Hello, ma'am, and/or sir, and welcome to Planet Kroger 14 in the Orion system." My personal privacy jammer kept it from figuring out who I was or even my gender. I knew that I missed out on the personalized shopping experience, but that was a small price to pay for keeping my identity hidden. "Our scanners showed that you're equipped with a non-lethal weaponry. Well, we do acknowledge your legal right to use such a device. We do require—" I held up my card then. "Welcome back, preferred shopper 404, name not found." The hacked card had cost me 3 jugs of apple scrug, but it was worth it. "So long as you use the non-lethal weapons defensively, please enjoy your shopping today." I kept my beam gun holstered across my back, but my stun baton was in my hand as I moved through the store. I didn't expect anything unusual today. Should be fairly light in crowds, since there wasn't any sort of crazy sale with Red Tuesday behind us. I headed towards the back since I was really just here for the essentials, and those were always at the back, which meant that I'd have to hop into one of those moving walkways and get me there quicker. I could take the tram, but I always figured I waited around so long that it wasn't worth it. If I could time it perfectly, it would be faster, but I just never quite got it right. Since I had my own hydroponics, I didn't really need anything in the produce selection. Maybe I did. I looked at the deal as I zipped closer to on the walkway. 10 pounds of potatoes for $1. 10 whole pounds for $1. $1. 10 pounds! Could I even grow my potatoes for that cheap? I dashed off the walkway to grab a bag and clip it to a harness before getting back on a moving platform. Feck it. For $1, I could get some extra taters. If nothing else, I can make them into booze. As I neared the end of the line for the essentials, I hopped off and found the milk section. Goat, llama, boogaloo, human, LSD-enhanced human, cow. There it is. Whole fat cow's milk, and only $1 for half a gallon. I clipped the jug to the front of my harness, and then grabbed myself a box of unsalted butter as well. Not the sweet cream one, though. I made that mistake before, just not for me. I began to move towards the meat department, then detouring a bit to get some eggs, ostrich, gator, space T-Rex, chicken. There we go. I took one of their special super safe shock-absorbing dozen packs, which I clipped to my leg before moving on. At the next opportunity, I hopped onto another moving platform as I looked around for some of the other specials. I hopped off again once I got to the soup section as I began to tuck cans of chicken broth into my harness pouches. Broth could really add to the flavor of veggies, and at 32 cents a can, I could get as much as I wanted. I thought about grabbing one of the packages of a pound of Kroger brand saltines, but I think I still have some from last time. Though I did grab 2 cans of biscuits because fresh hot biscuits are amazing. Hopping back on the walkway, I was back on my way towards the meat. I could see that the armored employees standing around just in case. Since the store was so quiet right now, I didn't need to grab a number and just headed up to the counter. "What can I get for you?" a smiling butcher behind the counter asked as I looked over the selection. "Chicken thighs, what's the max?" I asked. "The bone in or boneless skinless?" "Boneless skinless," I answered and tapped on the display. 10 pounds max, $1.50 a pound. So damn cheap. I was sure the chicken factory in the core of the planet had to be some sort of sin, but I just couldn't make myself want it to end for these prices. 9 pounds, 3-pound bag, I ordered and began to browse as the butcher started to fill my order. "Oh, hell yeah, mahi-mahi for $5 a pound. I could do my macadamia-encrusted mahi-mahi recipe." Yeah, oh wait, never mind, the macadamias were $16 a pound. I think not. I'd stick to the I can't believe it's not macadamias. Once we had wrapped up each package of chicken and handed them over, I tucked them each into a pouch. My harness was starting to full, but I was almost done. Like I'd said, just the essentials. "Anything else?" he asked, and I nodded to the fish. "Give me 2 steaks there." He nodded and started to pull them out when he heard the klaxon start. blaring as an emergency sales station at the side began to flash. Attention, Paraxian shoppers, we have a flash sale on 75% lean beef for 89 cents a pound. Follow the flash sale lights to the designated bin. Holy shit, 89 cents a pound. I was going to stock up on that. Oh, shit. Paraxians. I turned to the butcher as I saw the look in his eyes. We could already hear the rumble in the background. The fish, give me the fucking fish, I urged, and he quickly tossed it into the bag, wrapping it up as quickly as he could, but he fumbled a bit. Hurry, damn it! The rumble was getting closer, and he tossed me the pack, and I grabbed it one-handed, slamming it into a pouch as I ran for the big bin, even as the butchers brought down the security gates over the section. I reached in, grabbed an armful of the packs of ground beef, tucking them into my rucksack as quickly as I could, ignoring the extra ones that fell as I moved in a rush. Maybe I was in time. That's when the horde rounded the corner ahead of me. Ravenous, penny-pinching fish, one near the front, pointed at me even as I ran. They have some under the sale item. Get them! Fuck you, fish face, I screamed as they began to approach, unslinging my bean gun to blast the nearest one with one of the heavy bean bags to send them flying back into the rest of the horde. Even so, they kept running as I had to pump the gun one-handed while swinging my stun baton with the other to keep them back, their fishy hands clawing at me as they got close. And one grabbed hold of my rucksack, but I gave her a swift smack with the baton and followed up with a boot to the gut to shove her back before I fired the bean gun into the face of another of them to make some space. Using the temporary reprieve, I tossed my gun into the air and then reached into a pocket to grab a handful of garlic salt, which I tossed into their faces with horror. Garlic salt! They hissed and squealed as they backed off, and I grabbed the gun as it fell, hightailing it out of the meat department while I had room. I kept up the pace until I got to the bulk spice section and paused to grab the garlic salt container and replenish my stock in my pouch. It was cheaper than pepper spray, and just as effective at close range against Paraxians. Plus, I loved garlic salt in general, so it never went to waste. That should be everything. Maybe I should stop by one of the daily special sections to see what they had. I never know what you might find. As I neared it, I could smell them before anything else. Then I laughed as I saw a small pen of baby goats bouncing around. It was as if they'd thought of it just for me. Hell, I even saw one that looked perfect. She had black fleece and a bluish-grey coat and a derpy-looking face. But as useful as a goat was, they were too expensive. I needed to save up for the new oxygen scrubber. Hold on a second. $20? I gasped and stared at the daily sales sign. $20, $20, 2 tens for a goat. A whole goat for $20. What was wrong with them? Were they reject goats? I looked at the pen, trying to figure out what the catch was, when the PA came on above me. We'd like to remind shoppers that one of our daily sales on baby goats for $20 is limited. There are only 15 goats left. Feck you, I shouted, as I heard the rumble of the Paraxians yet again, and hopped the pen to grab the goat I had my eye on, and then jumped the other side of the pen as I ran for the exit. They have baby goats! Get them! I heard behind me and turned to fire my bean gun once more in the direction of the horde. Thankfully, with my special shopper card, the computer would automatically deduct the cost of my groceries from my account as I ran past the check register and into the airlock I'd used to get in. I slammed the button to cycle the lock as I looked back and saw the Paraxians closing in. But then as the goat bleated, I realized I was about to be exposed to the vacuum. Shit! I looked around and grabbed one of the complimentary sealable bags. I pulled off the oxygen tank and pumped it full of air before dropping the goat in and sealing it up. I had just slammed the tank back into place when the lock finally cycled and the door slammed shut before the lead Paraxian could get inside. With that, I hit the button for the outer door and grabbed the bag with the goat as I leapt off the front through the space to get back to the scrap heap. The door was still open since I'd left it open to the elements for a faster exfil. Once inside, I turned and slammed my hand on the button to shut the door and pump the main hold with air. I laughed as I stood inside my ship now, groceries dangling from my harness. I opened the bag and let the goat out and looked her over as she bounced around my ship. That was close one, Boots. No, Flip-Flop. You know what? I'm just going to get away from footwear and come back to your name later. I headed up to the cockpit as I pulled my list from my pocket to look it over, confident I'd gotten everything. Milk, eggs, chicken stock, chicken thighs, fish, butter, biscuits. Feck! Vitamin D. I was supposed to swing by the health section. I lived in deep space inside an asteroid and didn't get nearly enough sunlight or vitamin D. I had a grocery run, but didn't get it all in one go. Feck! Feck! I looked back at the goat, who just looked at me and gave a little bleat, her tongue sticking out as she stared at me with a derpy look on her face. Maybe I might have bought a retarded goat. Oh well. I'd restock my gun and unload what groceries I had, because it looked like I wasn't done just yet. The Paraxins inside would want my head and my sale items if I went back inside, but I'd just have to deal with it because I'd be damned if I made 2 trips to the store this week. I racked the beanbag into a chamber as I prepared to reload. Maybe I should get more beanbags too. It was just hard not to spend so much time in an establishment dedicated to the supremacy of humanity over all things. We turned nature into a factory and could outproduce and outconsume anyone. Hell, we sold meat so cheap predators who used to only eat what they personally killed were getting fat and lazy as they watched NASCAR, and herbivores who duke it out inside the store over the cheapest veggies. To say nothing of scavengers who preferred frozen carcasses to the fresh ones they found in the wild. It was our ultimate victory, the one thing humanity had made no one else could top, the supermarket. And I was going back in. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.